and welcome to Around Town. I'm your host, Sally Collura, and it is now fall in New England, and that means apple picking, picking pumpkins, decorating pumpkins, and yes, going to the polls to vote. And this election is a really important one because we're electing governor, we're electing representatives and state senators and so on. We're here today speaking with two representatives from the League of Women Voters to discuss the important ballot questions, and there are 4 of them. And then following that, we're going to let you know who the candidates are for public office. And we're going to give you some websites to visit as well so that you can get yourself a little educated before November 4th. And with me today is my friend, Shelley Drowns. I'm sorry. And Shelley is the president of the League here in Waltham.
That's right.
League of Women Voters, welcome.
Yes, thank you very much.
And sitting next to her is Nancy Brumback, and you are the second vice president and the director of the League of Women Voters of Massachusetts. And welcome.
Thank you for having us here today.
Thank you for taking the time. This is a busy season for you too.
It is a very busy season. We have candidates forums, ballot question forums, all over.
It's amazing. And right out of the gate, we're going to talk about 2 things. First of all, the mission of the League is to educate voters. And get them to vote, and get them to make sure that they register to vote.
That's right. The League actually has 2 parts to its mission. One is advocacy on issues based on positions we have taken after study and consensus of our members. The other is the voter education that I think people are more familiar with. That's the candidates forums we hold, the voter registration drives. We are nonpartisan in the sense that we never, ever, ever endorse a candidate or a political party, but we do take stands on issues that we feel strongly about and have done the research on.
And so do I. And so, as Shelley knows full well from the tea leaf and many discussions. Yes. And it's great to discuss and debate because that educates you before you go to the polls. Now, that being said, October 29th, at South Middle School, which is also called the Community and Cultural Center on Moody Street, the old South Junior Middle School. There'll be a debate, and they're going to debate a ballot question. Shelley, tell us about that briefly.
Yes, we're very excited about this. The Brandeis students, they have a debate team. They're number 2 in the country, and they have agreed to field 2 teams to debate both sides of the casino question. So we think this will be very entertaining as well as informative. Nancy will also be there to answer very simple questions about the ballot, not to debate the other ballot questions.
And I will be there as well. I've already decided on the ballot questions personally, but I invite anybody to change my mind. But also, will you be taking questions and answers from people who attend?
Absolutely. These debaters are, as I said, they're number 2 in the country, so they're very proficient.
I didn't know that until you told me that one day.
They're very proficient, and they are expecting questions. So we are hoping that we get a wide range of questions from people in the community.
I'm sure you will. And we've just got some of the best and brightest in Waltham, yes, between Bentley, Brandeis, Gann Academy, some of the greatest schools.
And Sally, around. Something like this gives voters a chance to see more than the 30-second ads they see on television. Absolutely.
And those commercials, I mean, some of them could win the commercial award for like the worst commercials, and you have to look beyond as you said, a 30-second commercial. Mm-hmm. So let's move on without further ado. And by the way, we will tell people that at the end of the show, in the credits, will be all the websites that you will need to find any of the information that you want about the League, both locally and the state, and also information on ballot questions and that sort of thing. So we will have those websites for you at the end of the show. And so let's discuss. Do you want to move right on to this? Because I'm
Sure.
excited.
Sure.
First one. And these are all hot ballot
And maybe we
questions.
should tell people that they should all have gotten this booklet from the Secretary of State's office, and it has all the ballot questions, pro and con arguments in it, so take a look at this before you go to the polls too.
I agree. And it's like a little workbook. And at the end is a little checkbox that you can tear it off and take it to the polls so you don't have to remember what did I want to do with question number 2. So you can obtain those if you didn't get it in the mail, and I know some people have not received it in the mail. They're at City Hall on the 2nd floor, probably the 1st floor, but I know they're right outside the clerk's office on the 2nd floor and at the Tea Leaf, because at the Tea Leaf, my little shop, I have those, and I have voter registrations and absentee ballots. So, and Nancy is so good to hold that up. And so everybody should have that. Thank you for doing that. So let's talk about the first question, which is the gas tax indexing. Nancy, explain briefly gas tax indexing.
Okay, this ballot question does only one thing. It does not repeal the gasoline tax. I think some people have the misconception that's what it's trying to do. No, it also does not repeal the 3 cent a gallon increase that was made in the last legislative session. That's the first increase in the gasoline tax in 20 years. What this ballot question asks is, should they repeal one provision of that law, which was to index the gasoline tax to the consumer price index going forward, so that they would in effect be automatic. We'll assume increases because we'll assume the consumer price index keeps going up, but conceivably it could go down.
And now my question, Nancy.
Yes.
If the consumer price index goes down, does the gas tax go down?
It does, but I think there's a floor below which it cannot go.
Okay, so clarifying that for the viewer out there.
It is indexed to that index, consumer price index, whichever way it goes.
And it would be interesting, and perhaps you could probably find out what that lower limit is, because
I think it is actually in the bill, and I don't remember.
okay,
So in this red book.
for that, for the 29th, it might be good to have that in case somebody has the question. So if the index goes down, which it could, but probably won't, the gas tax does go down to a certain point.
There's a floor.
There's a floor. Okay. So I think that sort of gives an overview and clarifies that for people.
And maybe also it is more likely to rise because the consumer price index has been going up. This lets the gas tax rise according to inflation, and automatically it provides a better source of funding for the state, a more even source, a more known source, which makes budgeting easier.
But here is the issue that I have, that it is done automatically rather than going back for a vote. And if we're electing, and this is, I'm going to play devil's advocate here on some of these questions, if we're electing our public officials, we want them to work for us and our benefit. So to have something automatically rise, I just have a concern about that automatically rising. So I think, again, the voters out there should read the book, really think about it, and definitely come on the 29th.
But realize that a lot of things are automatically tied to this so that the legislatures and Congress don't get bogged. Social Security increases, your Social Security payments are indexed to the consumer price index. It's a way to adjust for inflation without requiring a vote every single time.
Mm-hmm.
And it took the legislators 20 years to raise it 3 cents. So maybe this is a better way for us to make sure that there's enough money to cover repairs on their roads and bridges. It has come up that the legislature could use this money for something else. In effect, it can't. There's a constitutional requirement that the gas tax money go to be
roads and
used on
bridges.
transportation.
That's good.
So-
And so again, I think the people out there that maybe have some doubts might want to look into it and again attend on the 29th
Right.
too and ask those questions. So moving to question number 2, and this is a hot topic with a lot of people. Expanding the bottle bill. Do you want to comment on that?
Question number 2, a yes vote on question 2. Right now we have a deposit on beer and carbonated beverages, Cokes, Pepsi, that thing. Because when that bill was passed in 1982, that's what people drank. Today, people drink bottled water, they drink iced tea, they drink sports drinks like Gatorade, but those are not covered by the deposit system because nobody drank those in 1982. So the idea is to update the bottle bill to cover what we drink now. The opponents to this, the beverage industry, has put $8 million in advertising against this. That's more than the casino industry is spending. Some of their ads have been shown to be false, according to reports in the Boston Globe. But one of their points is curbside makes this unnecessary. Most of these drinks, bottled water, you don't drink it at home. You pick up that bottle when you go out, and when you finish that, what do? You look around. If you're a good person, you see if there's a recycle bin and put it in. But most towns don't have recycle bins on the sidewalks or in the playgrounds. So you put it in the trash. It never, ever gets recycled.
Right. And that's one of the issues that I have with this. One of the commercials that I saw stated, you know, we have curbside recycling now. We didn't have it 20 years ago, 25 years ago, but we now have it. How convenient is it? We don't need any 5-cent or any deposit on bottled water or juices or any non-carbonated beverage. Well, when you go out and you look around, you take a walk through the neighborhood, a walk downtown, do you see a Coca-Cola or a Pepsi? Do you see a soft drink can more often than you see all the bottled waters and the bottled juices out there on the ground? No. And my personal, I'm going to chime in with a personal thought, an observation when I'm out around town. I do see a lot of those bottles that do not have the deposit. Why? Because, you know, the folks going around picking up on trash day and getting those little 5-cent deposit cans are not picking up the bottles because of that. As you said.
The bottle bill works.
It works.
80% of the containers with deposits on them are recycled.
Right.
Only 23% of the containers without deposits are recycled. They're tossed in the trash.
They're tossed in the
and they
trash
end up in the
on the side of the
landfill and they stay there for eternity.
Right. And so the way I feel about it is I don't drink a lot of soft drinks. I do my own water, you know, purified water. And I think that's how we can help cut down on plastic, more plastic getting out there. But even if we have the bottle bill and you do toss the bottle on the side of the road, somebody's going to pick it up, and if you do put it in your recycle bin, I can guarantee you before the trash truck comes, the 5-cent deposits will go back. And it does not include milk.
It does not.
And I believe juices in the larger containers.
Nor does it include gallon bottles of water. There is no size in the bill.
Right.
When I was collecting signatures for this, I had a Little League coach in Maynard tell me he couldn't wait till this goes in effect because he's going to have his team go around after the games and pull all the water bottles out of the trash and use it to fund their uniforms.
A fortune. A fortune. Absolutely. So anyway, I guess we know where we stand on that one. We let the cat out of the bag. And at the end of this, Nancy, I would like you or Shelley to comment about how questions get on the ballot. Okay? So number 3, expanding the prohibition on gaming. This is another hot topic, and I'll chime in on that one too.
Well, if this passes, it would repeal the bill that the legislature passed 2 sessions ago to allow casino gambling in the state. It's up. There are a lot of arguments on both sides. There's job creation is the argument on the no side, and do we want to fund our state government on gambling revenues is the other side. And Brandeis will do this much better than I'm doing on next week.
Oh, that we all three could
Yes.
do, probably.
Probably.
If they're number 2 in the country.
It's a philosophical question. There's a lot of arguments on both
It really
sides.
is, yeah.
And
The whole gambling issue.
I
in
will
itself.
say, to be upfront, the league has opposed the gambling bill before it was passed. We
Sure.
worked very hard against
Sure,
it.
sure.
We still don't oppose it on a moral ground, but we don't think it'll bring in the revenues that would offset the cost of regulating this industry and dealing with the problems it might create in terms of addiction, in terms of crime, that type of thing.
Sure. So, again, playing devil's advocate here, I've been to Foxwoods once with the church. With the church. And
That's okay.
and I've been to, what's the other, Mohegan Sun once with the church. And it's fun to get on a
fun.
bus with a bunch of people that you know or you don't know and go and gamble away $50, you know. But it can get out of hand.
I tell you,
On the one hand, it can get out of control for a lot of people. On the other hand, there are a lot of buses going to Connecticut
there are.
and dropping their money in Connecticut. So I'm tossed either way, you know. I've already decided, but I'm not going to share it with you. But because I think people have to make the decision for themselves. And when they go into that polling place, everything that they check off has to be good with them, you know. So yes, it'll create jobs, construction jobs, and then jobs thereafter, and then perhaps hotels will benefit, restaurants in the area may benefit other than the ones in the casino, retail shopping may benefit if people are coming from maybe Maine and New Hampshire and other parts of
I will say, when you go to
Massachusetts.
Foxwood or Mohegan Sun, you do not see restaurants and businesses around there. Everything is in that complex. It somewhat sucks the air out of the economy around it, other than it does
Exactly.
provide jobs, but it doesn't provide more businesses for
Right.
restaurants and such.
Perhaps, though, and again, playing devil's advocate, for some of those, for a lot of those folks that are just going down for the one day on a bus, and because they are sort of a resort kind of thing, I know people who have gone down for a week and have done the area, you know, and you do get some of that, but by no means is it.
I will say
it's a
Foxwood-
drop in the bucket
Foxwoods
compared.
has a wonderful Indian museum of the American Indian
I know.
tribe there.
Yeah,
That if you
yeah.
go to Foxwood, you should see that too.
Yeah, it's a great museum as well. So yeah, I think, again, people have to be, there are pros and cons to every single one of these questions, and they really have to be given some thought. So we'll move on to, this is another hot issue, earned sick leave for employees.
And all I can speak to this. The league does not have a position on this because we don't have a position that allowed us to take a stand. So we are neutral on this issue, but to tell you briefly what it is, it provides for employees to earn sick time, and their employers will be required to allow them to take that if you have a business that's
Over 10.
under 10, it is unpaid.
Unpaid
You
sick
take
leave.
you take that time, but you're not paid for it. If your business is 11 or more employees, you pay people on the day they have to call in sick.
Right. And there is a formula, by the way, folks, that you can read in this red book. And again, it's at City Hall, available at City Hall, and it's available at just in the entryway of my little tea leaf on
the
487
maximum-
Moody. So you can stick your head in and grab the book and leave, or say hello to me.
The maximum amount of sick time you could earn is 40 hours a year. So that's
that
5
would be-
days of sick time.
Right. So the question is that in addition to sick time policy that companies already give, or their sick time policy, if there is one in place, is this just for the companies that do not have a sick
That's my
leave
understanding.
policy?
It would require all employers. Most large employers in the state have
Have a
some sort of.
policy.
I've never worked at a job that I couldn't call in sick, or when my daughters were young, I couldn't take a day off if they were homesick. But there are businesses. My guess is things like hotels or restaurants that have lower paid jobs. They don't allow people to call in sick.
But
It
the
depends.
folks that I know who run hotels right here in the area, their company does have a sick
Yes.
policy.
So it would cover those employees that right now don't have that available.
Right. So here's the other flip side to that. So the flip side is if the small employer, the small business, 10 or under 10, they're allowed to earn the sick time, but it's unpaid. If you really need that person,
You're going to have to.
first of all, you don't want the person coming in sick.
No.
And that's a given. I just feel that a small employer could give 3 days sick time. I think there should be something there, because then you're going to get people that are coming in ill that shouldn't. And if it's a small employer, under 10 people, and then they're spreading their germs, you're going to have 4 people out at the same time, which would be a hardship on the business. So I think a lot of thought has to go into that as well.
I did laugh. I heard an opponent of this bill on a televised debate saying, you have something like a daycare center and they can't afford for their worker not to come in. And I'm thinking, I don't want a sick worker coming into the daycare center.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
I
Exactly.
suspect most small businesses work this out informally now,
And
but
I-
it does provide the
and I-
protection for the employees.
And I did. I worked for a company that had no sick time. But when I was ill and my employer knew when I called in, she didn't sound, I don't want to be around her.
Right.
So I would get paid for it.
Well, there's
So
also-
most employers have a heart.
Yeah, it also covers if you need to if your child is sick,
Right.
comes down, wakes up in the morning throwing up.
And I think that's probably the main reason for this bill as well. Yeah. So it would be beneficial to people out there who are caregivers for a parent with Alzheimer's or a small child, children at home. Sure. So, we've got to remind people it's so important to go out and vote Tuesday, November 4th from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And I think now we should just kind of go over the.
And let me just say
the
that
list.
if you can't make it that Tuesday, you can get an absentee ballot. They are available now from your town clerks.
Absolutely. You can get them, you can get those at City Hall as well. And again, I have those down at my shop.
And you can even vote them at City Hall. If you know you're going to be away that day, you can go down
And cast
do
your
it
ballot.
right at the
And do it right at the clerk's
there.
office. Thank you, Nancy. That's a good tip, a good tip. So, Shelley, who do we have on the ballot?
Ooh, I did not bring my list.
Why
I have,
don't you?
I have the local people
Here,
who
you
will
can
be on the
take-
ballot.
You can take mine because we're going to give you a. We're just going to. Can you read this? Here you go, Nancy.
What I can tell you is that
Shelley.
you can look on the Secretary of State's website.
I have a good one too.
Yeah.
It's called politics1.com, and that'll get you, just plug in Massachusetts and you'll see who all the candidates
Yeah.
are. Let's.
And the Secretary of State, you put in your own address and it will show you your ballot, which is very useful because that's the one place you can see who's running locally.
That's great.
And I looked all over. That was the only place I could find that information. But
Yeah.
for Waltham, we do
Let's
want
start with governor,
Oh,
and we know that's.
well, let's see. That's what I'm not sure.
Let me
about here.
chime in while Shelley's
Go right
finding this.
ahead.
The State League of Women Voters on its website, which is lwvma.org, has a voter's guide, and we have the 6 constitutional offices, which is governor, lieutenant governor, secretary of state, attorney general, treasurer, and auditor. All 21 candidates for those offices have answered questions we submitted. You can click on the candidate's name and see their answers. You can click on the questions and see all the answers of the candidates for that office.
Oh, that's
so
good.
it's something like an online
So sort of a
candidates forum.
statement.
It's like
from
a candidates
each-
forum.
That's great.
So
That's great.
I
And
urge-
that will be really, really helpful. And again, you can go to that website and have a look. So, I mean, starting the ones we care about here in Waltham, of course, Governor.
Well, again, I didn't bring that list over.
But we know who.
Well,
there are 5 of them.
this is a test.
There are 5 of them.
Yeah, we want all 5 here.
Okay,
It's important.
so let me review. So we've got, we have governor and a lieutenant governor, Martha Coakley, Democrat, and Steve Kerrigan, Democrat. And then we have Charlie Baker, and Republican, and Karen Polito, Republican. Evan Falchuk, and he's the United Independent, and Angus Jennings, also United Independent. Scott Lively, Independent, and Shelley Saunders, Independent. And 2 I haven't heard of, Jeff McCormick, Independent, and Tracy Post, also Independent. And then we have, what, Lieutenant Governor? I know I had...
Well, those were
just-
the lieutenant governors.
Those were the lieutenant governors.
They run as pairs.
So we have locally for 9th Middlesex District, Tom Stanley and Sharon, I pronounce it Anita.
Antia on the ballot.
And Antia, okay. On Anita, A-N-I-T-A?
On the ballot that I looked at, it was ANTIA.
A-N-T-I-A, okay, so I spelled it incorrectly. And for the 10th Middlesex District, running unopposed is John Lawn. 3rd Middlesex Senate, Michael Barrett versus Sandy Martinez. And Michael Barrett is the incumbent, we should say. To back it up a little, Tom Stanley, 9th Middlesex District, is the incumbent, and of course John Lawn running unopposed. And I think those are the main...
We've also got
main ones.
we have the U.S. Representative, Catherine Clark, running unopposed,
Okay.
and U.S. Senator. We have Edward Markey versus Brian Herr.
Okay.
So,
And so those are, the hot names on the ballot and the hot issues on the ballot. And I have to thank you both for taking the time to come and discuss them. And the 2 important dates are November 4th, again, Tuesday, November 4th, and also for Election Day, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Of course, we talked about absentee ballot and all that, and you certainly can do that. And then at South Middlesex School, the Waltham League
is presenting the debate on ballot question number 3 about casino gambling.
and you'll have all kinds of information
We will have
there.
information and plenty of time for questioning.
Wonderful. And as I said, I will be there with bells on. Just a couple of things in closing. I want to welcome, thank you, Kurt Fetter, who is a new employee here at the Waltham Channel, and he's out there with Phil helping us do this show to enlighten and inform you voters at home. So welcome and thank you. I can do my show once a month or twice a month. Yay. And I also have to say that one of my past guests, Mike Lewis, was on the show. He wrote a book about marketing, social media, and we're doing a little contest with that. Send me a postcard here at the Waltham Channel. Tell me what you like or any suggestions about the Around Town show, and any suggestions or ideas, and we'll throw that little postcard in the bucket, and one lucky winner will get Mike's autograph book. So until next week, thank you for staying tuned once again. Stay well and God bless. Don't forget to vote.